let's just say Washington does get beat by Colorado, it is arguable that you could still have Michigan at number 4. And let's just say if Washington does beat Colorado, if Michigan's at number 4, it's simple. Then you move them out. But if Washington does get beat by Colorado, it's arguable that you could have Michigan at number 4, even over Penn State or Wisconsin, because obviously Buckeyes have the loss to Penn State. But other than that, Buckeyes and Michigan both have the win over Wisconsin. So Wisconsin winning the Big Ten would favor Michigan, and Buckeyes staying in the top 4 both, I think.
Yeah, that's an interesting debate about if, let's say, Washington does lose. Yeah, it's an interesting debate whether you put in a team. I think, like, let's say Clemson wins, and you put in Ohio State, right? Because they have a really good resume. Do you put in a Wisconsin? Do you put either a Penn State or Wisconsin Big Ten champion in with 2 losses, with a loss to Michigan, or do you put in Michigan, who didn't win their conference but has beaten both on the team?
I mean, but personally, I believe if Penn State does win the Big Ten, I think they honestly could even jump Ohio State because they have the head-to-head and the conference champion. I mean, I feel like the only way Michigan can have even a shot at the playoffs still is if Washington loses their game to Colorado and then Wisconsin wins the championship, because Michigan would have the head-to-head win against Wisconsin, and so would Ohio State. So I think that's really the only way Ohio State and Michigan could get in the playoff. I think Ohio State right now is kind of a sitting duck. And I feel like if you're Ohio State, you really want to root for Wisconsin to win that Big Ten championship, because if Penn State does win, they could have an argument considering they did beat Ohio State.
Yeah, I would say that if Wisconsin does win, I would say it's inarguable that even with the conference championship win, I think it would almost be inarguable that Michigan and Buckeyes would still have a better resume than Wisconsin, just because of the fact that the 2 head-to-head wins over them.
I think another thing is that if Penn State wins the Big Ten, I think you put in Ohio State at 4 and you jump Penn State up to 3 maybe. But even with the head-to-head win and the conference championship, I don't think you could really piggyback Penn State that high, much higher into the playoff rankings. I don't think you could put them ahead of like a Clemson.
Oh yeah, no.
All right, I want to ask you guys this question. As of right now, if let's just say Penn State does win, would you guys say, by the eye test, even with the head-to-head win, would you guys still say Penn State is a better team than Ohio State, or would you still say Ohio State right now looks better than Penn State?
I think if I did a blind resume test, if Penn State won the Big Ten, I'd honestly say Ohio State is better, because while they do have the head-to-head win, Ohio State does have 1 less loss, and then you look at the common opponents. Michigan completely destroyed Penn State early on in the year. It was like 39-14 or something like that, and Ohio State beat Michigan. So I think that Ohio State has a better blind resume than Penn State.
Well, I feel like no matter who wins the Big Ten, they should get in. I mean, considering
you think Washington's left out regardless?
I don't think they're left out regardless. If they can win,
I think if Wisconsin wins the Big Ten, I say
if they struggle really badly against Colorado, then there's definitely a good chance of 2 Big Ten. I think there's already a good chance of 2 Big Ten teams being in, whether it's Michigan, Penn State, Buckeyes, or Wisconsin. I think 2 of those 4 still get into the playoffs, because I don't think there's a lot of argument you can make that the Big Ten is easily as good, if not as tough of a conference to play in as the SEC right now. Because in the Big SEC, you just have Alabama all alone this year. I can't call them a weak conference, but Alabama is definitely the only one that stands out in the SEC, so I think you can compare the Big Ten to the SEC this year in strength-wise.
Yeah, because I think the SEC's next highest-ranked team is like Florida at like 15.
With 3 losses and the bad loss to Florida State yesterday.
What if Washington has a convincing win as well as Wisconsin winning the conference? So do you think Washington has a chance? Do you think you only take 1 Big Ten team in?
If Washington wins convincingly, I say that you can only have 1 Big Ten team in, and that's saying Clemson wins too. We'll see everything that happens next week, but yeah, if we're just talking Washington having a huge win over Colorado, I think you can only put 1 Big Ten team in at that point.
And who would that Big Ten team be in your guys' opinion?
I think it'd be Wisconsin, to be honest. I mean, it could be Ohio State.
It could be Ohio State or Wisconsin if Wisconsin wins the Big Ten and Washington gets a convincing win.
Yeah, and that scenario definitely does come down to Ohio State and Wisconsin. I think Washington having a convincing win definitely brings it down to Wisconsin and Ohio State at that
Yeah,
point. I would say.
I actually think it would be Ohio State if Wisconsin wins the Big Ten, because I just think with that head-to-head and a much better resume, I think Ohio State gets in. But if it's Penn State, I would not be surprised to see Penn State get in over Ohio State and Ohio State actually fall from 2 to 5, which sounds ridiculous, but I
But
feel like
it could happen.
it could happen just based on the committee's values on conference championships, which obviously I've stated that I believe are way too high, and it really should be the top 4 teams and not the conference champions of the Power Five conferences.
I do think that this year we are going to see that though, where a conference champion won't get in, depending on the scenario and what actually happens in the game. Because,
Yeah.
like we just
If,
said,
if
Wisconsin.
Washington has a close,
I think we can all agree that it does take a big win for Washington, like a 17-21 plus point win to thoroughly, I'd say, put them in a top 4 scenario.
that's the only way that's the only way I think you can really guarantee a Washington berth.